The rain came suddenly, beating down on the rusted rooftops of Mushin like the city itself was grieving. Lagos traffic honked in the distance, uncaring. Waterlogged gutters bubbled with filth. But Ifedayo didn't flinch. She stood still in her plastic slippers, soaked to the bone, her scarf clinging to her forehead. In her hand, a nylon bag of freshly dyed Adaya fabrics. In her chest, a heart heavier than the sky. As she crossed the busy roadside, she passed a newspaper vendor sheltering under a half-collapsed umbrella. The bold headline caught her eye. Damilola Adebayo resigns from Adebayo Textiles Billionaire. Heir disappears without explanation. She stopped, just for a breath. Just long enough for the wind to slap her skirt and memory to slap her harder. His face was there on the front page. Trimmed beard. That same distant, searching stare. The same eyes that once looked at her like she was more than enough. She turned away quickly. Walked faster. As if walking could undo it all. Elsewhere, in a dim corner of a buka, Damilola sat hunched over a bowl of cold beans. The hood of his threadbare sweater cast shadows across his face. His phone screen glowed in front of him. A video clip he couldn't delete. Ifedayo laughing, holding up a badly sewn wrapper, teasing him about crooked stitches. He'd watched it too many times. A voice from within whispered, "She gave you everything. You gave her nothing but a lie." He clenched the phone until his hand trembled, then deleted the clip. The screen turned black, like the rest of his life had. The waiter walked by without noticing him. Just another tired man in Lagos. Back in her one-room flat, Ifedayo peeled off her wet scarf and sat quietly on her foam mattress, staring at nothing. Rain tapped the glass. Her fabric samples lay untouched. She had loved a man she thought she knew. Someone humble, broken, real. She never expected to find out he was the billionaire heir of the very textile empire that had once refused to fund her community fashion class. The betrayal still burned, not because he was rich, but because he never told her. Outside, thunder rolled again. Inside both their hearts, silence. And still, somewhere between Mushin puddles and Banana Island mansions, love held its breath, waiting. Weeks earlier, the chandeliers at Adebayo Towers sparkled over a boardroom filled with designers, investors, and whispers. Damilola Adebayo sat at the head of the table, blazer crisp, jaw set, the face of Nigeria's leading textile empire. His father's legacy, lace, Adaya, Ankara, now clothed presidents and pop stars. But today the empire felt like a cage. He tapped his pen once, twice, a third time. The CFO was late. His fiancée, Bola, sharp, graceful, dangerously poised, texted, "Running late, love. Don't start without me." He didn't smile. Minutes later, curiosity dragged him down a hallway lined with portraits of past CEOs. Laughter echoed from the finance wing. He turned the corner and froze. Bola, his CFO, lips locked, whispered promises. The woman he had bought a ring for was laughing in another man's arms. She didn't see him. He didn't wait to be seen. Damilola turned around, walked back to his office, and shut the door. That evening, without drama or confrontation, he made calls. Wedding cancelled. Bola's access revoked. CFO terminated. His driver waited downstairs for an hour, unaware Damilola had taken the back stairwell and vanished into the Lagos night. By morning, gossip columns were speculating. Crisis at Adebayo Textiles. CEO in hiding? But he wasn't abroad. He was in Agege, standing in a mirror, shaving his beard off unevenly and pulling on a faded t-shirt that smelled of starch and dust. His assistant, Onyeka, panicked when he called. "No cars, no staff, no press. I need torn jeans, worn-out slippers, and a cloth bag," he said. "Sir, are you all right?" "No brands, no buttons. I want to vanish." She paused, then whispered, "I'll bring them myself." By midday, the heir to a Billionaire fortune was renting a corner in a noisy compound beside a noisy tailor and a bus stop preacher. No gate, no generator, no AC. Just the heat and the hunger of Lagos living. He lifted a wheelbarrow at dawn, hauled crates, sat in the market watching life pass unfiltered. For the first time in years, no one cared who he was. That night he lay on a creaky foam with a leaking ceiling above, and silence in his heart. Not even the rats noticed him. And somehow, that felt honest. The sun beat down on the tin roofs of Ayagunle as voices rose from the market below. Hawkers shouting, radios crackling, and bus conductors bellowing their destinations. Damilola wiped his forehead with a frayed hand towel. His back ached from offloading yams all morning, and his stomach grumbled louder than the Danfo horns. He found a shaded corner beside a tailor's kiosk made of aging plywood and fluttering Adia scraps. He slumped down, hiding from the heat, his shirt soaked, his pride long gone. Around him, nobody noticed the sweat-stained man with calloused hands, until she did. "Are you all right?" a gentle voice asked. He looked up. She stood above him, holding a cooler and a small black nylon bag. Her wrapper was tied over faded trousers, her blouse dotted with chalk from a nearby blackboard. "Ife," she said, offering her hand. "Ifedayo." He hesitated, then shook it. "David," he lied softly. "You look like you haven't eaten," she said, sitting beside him, unbothered by the dirt or smell. From her nylon bag, she pulled out a bowl of rice and beans. "It's not plenty, but you can have some." He blinked. No camera, no strings, just warm food and warmer eyes. That night, he returned, not to beg, but to thank her. She smiled and said, "If you want to earn, you can help me fold fabrics after school. It's not much, but it's something." And so it began. Every evening, she'd return from teaching sewing to public school girls, change into a faded gown, and sit behind her manual machine. Damilola swept the floor, carried wrappers, and eventually learned to thread bobbins. She taught him how to use chalk for pattern markings and how to fold gel with care. Her fingers were quick. Her voice was calm. Her dreams were stitched into every cloth she sewed. She never asked where he came from, never pushed. She only offered one rule: no lies. If you're broken, be broken. If you're healing, say so. One night, as they shared roasted corn under a flickering bulb, she looked at him and said, "You have quiet eyes, David, like someone who used to see too much and got tired." He didn't reply, but something in him softened. Maybe for the first time in a long time, he was being seen. Not for what he had, but for who he was becoming. The wedding reception was held at a local event center. Plastic chairs, bright canopies, plates of jollof rice passed hand to hand. Ifedayo wore a second-hand Aso-Ebi gown she had tailored herself. Simple, elegant. Her joy wasn't in the lace. It was in the man beside her. Damilola, still David to everyone, wore a borrowed shirt and clean trousers she had helped him press. He stood quietly beside her, his posture modest, shoes dull, smile soft. He didn't blend in, but he didn't try to. They walked in hand. The music paused. Eyes turned. "Who's that?" someone whispered. "Looks like a mechanic." Ifedayo smiled regardless and introduced him proudly. "This is David, my partner." Her ex, Tiga, raised a brow. Sharp suit, loud perfume, swagger in his steps. "Ifedayo," he drawled, "you really downgraded from a sharp boy to whatever this is." She didn't flinch. "This whatever listens more in one evening than you ever did in 2 years." Laughter erupted from a nearby table. One of Tiga's friends added, "Babe, be honest. Is this community service or are you starting a non-profit?" Even her friend Kemi pulled her aside. "Why bring him here?" "They're saying he's that guy they saw asking for pure water at the car wash last week." Ifedayo glanced back at Damilola, standing calmly near the drinks, nodding at a child who had spilled malt on his sandals. He looked out of place, yes, but he also looked real. She returned to the table, raised her voice just enough. You all wear fancy clothes, but you mock what you don't understand. This man stood by me when my shop got flooded. He wakes early to sweep the place before I arrive. He doesn't boast. He doesn't lie. And he doesn't pretend. The DJ went silent. Even Tigger looked down. Damilola stepped forward, holding 2 paper plates. There was only 1 spoon left, he said softly, offering her one with a smile. She took it. Later, as they walked home through dimly lit streets, she squeezed his hand and whispered, "Thank you for enduring all that." He shook his head. "You defended me." She smiled. "You didn't need to explain yourself to them, because I already know who you are." He looked at her, truly looked, and for the first time he feared what she would see if she ever found out. Market day was chaos. Color, dust, chatter. Ifedayo's stall had never looked more vibrant. New wrappers on display, orders for wedding gel. A pop-up fashion show was scheduled nearby, and she'd been invited to dress a few models. Damilola helped quietly in the background, folding fabric and adjusting mannequins. He watched her shine, her confidence, her grace, the way she turned scraps into art. She was everything he'd never deserved, and everything he could no longer hide from. Then came the sound. Car engines. 3 black SUVs. Sleek. Out of place. Crowd parted as men in plain suits stepped out. One approached Ifedayo's stall, holding a red velvet folder. "Delivery for Mr. Adebayo," he announced. Heads turned. Customers paused. Ifedayo frowned. The man bowed slightly, turned to Damilola, and said with quiet respect, "Sir, the documents you requested." Gasps, camera phones, frozen silence. Ifedayo blinked. "What did he call you?" Damilola stepped forward, voice low but firm. "There's something I should have told you. My name isn't David." He opened the folder. Inside, documents bearing the golden crest of Adebayo Textiles, press clippings, share certificates. "I'm Damilola Adebayo, heir and former CEO." The color drained from her face. "Why?" "I needed to know if someone could love me without the money, without the name. I didn't mean to lie, You tested me?" Her voice cracked. "No, but you did," she whispered. "You watched me struggle. You saw me give everything. And all this time, you were pretending to be like me." He reached for her hand, but she stepped back. "You weren't looking for love," she said quietly. "You were running an experiment." "No, I was trying to heal." Tears welled in her eyes, but she blinked them away. "Then go heal somewhere else." She turned, pulled down her wrappers, and packed her things in silence. The fashion show went on. The applause returned, but Damilola was no longer part of the audience. He stood there, as people whispered, pointed, bowed. The wealth had returned. The world had remembered him, but the only voice he wanted to hear had walked away. The villa was quiet again. High ceilings, glass walls, imported silence. Damilola stood in the center of it all, surrounded by wealth, but emptier than ever. He had stepped back into his old world. Meetings, suits, headlines, but nothing fit anymore. Investors returned, board seats reopened. His father offered him the CEO position again. He declined. He spent his mornings staring out of tall windows, his nights in darkness. She was gone. Ifedayo had vanished without a word. Kiosk shuttered, her phone line dead. Even Onyeka couldn't trace her. Until one late afternoon, Damilola got a call from a quiet source in Ilorin. "She's teaching at a community school," they whispered, "living modestly. Doesn't speak of you." He drove himself there the next morning. No convoy, no security, just his thoughts. But he arrived too late. She had moved again. Weeks passed. Then, one evening, as he lay on his leather couch, surrounded by silence, Onyeka walked in holding a white envelope. She left this behind. Inside was a note in Ifedayo's tidy handwriting. No anger, no bitterness, I loved you, Damilola, but I won't be the reason you give up your name, your legacy, or your world. I'd rather remember you as the man who swept my shop floor, not the one with 1,000 eyes watching us. Please, don't come looking. I will be fine. Our child will be fine. The letter slipped from his hand like glass. Child. His chest froze, then raced. He read the line again. Again. His heart broke into something new. Something deeper than regret. Ifedayo was pregnant and gone. Far away in a dim flat in Offa, Ifedayo rubbed her belly and whispered, "You're not alone. Mama's here." Every kick reminded her of him. Every quiet night brought him back. She didn't cry often, but when she did, she buried her face in the same adaya he once helped fold. Love hadn't left her, but it had taken a shape she wasn't sure the world could accept. Not anymore. The charity event was meant to be small, just a health outreach in a sleepy Ilorin suburb. Chief Mrs. Adebayo had come for a photo op and escaped from Lagos gossip. The press had hounded her for weeks, since Damilola walked away from his legacy. She wandered alone, clutching her handbag, her heels crunching the red dust. That was when she saw her, Ifedayo, standing in the sun, one hand guiding a pregnant woman into the health center, the other adjusting a bag of donated baby clothes. She looked glowing, tired, yet whole. No makeup, no fanfare, but dignity wrapped her like the adia tied around her waist. Chief Mrs. Adebayo froze. "That girl?" she asked a nurse nearby. "Oh yes, Miss Ifedayo. She teaches at the local school. Very sweet. She's expecting. Doesn't talk much about the father." The older woman stared. Her breath caught when she spotted the tiny bump under Ifedayo's blouse. Child was real. Her grandchild. And this woman, whom she once dismissed as unworthy, had chosen to carry it with honor, without demands, without complaint. That night, she returned to Lagos without a single photo taken. She didn't speak in the car, not until her husband asked, "How was the trip?" She poured tea, sat on the couch, and whispered, "She's pregnant." He looked up. "Are you sure?" "She's living in a rented room, still helping people, still teaching, still standing tall." Her voice wavered, and I judged her. There was silence between them. "Damilola was right," she said almost to herself. "She's not from our world, but maybe our world is what needs fixing." The next morning, Damilola got a message from Onyeka. "Come to the office. You'll want to see this." Inside a sealed envelope was an address and a note. "Go. No security. Just go." He didn't ask questions. He drove himself to the small health center in Ilorin, parked far away, entered slowly, and there she was, seated quietly in the waiting room, her hands resting protectively over her belly. She looked up. Their eyes met. She stood, unsure, unspeaking. He crossed the room in 2 strides, knelt before her and placed his hands over hers. "You're carrying our child," he whispered. She nodded slowly, and he pulled her into his arms. "I thought I'd lost everything," he said softly, "but I just found everything." The scent of hibiscus and steamed rice lingered in the air as sunlight spilled over the Adebayo estate. But this wasn't a ceremony for CEOs or governors. This was a wedding, wrapped in a dial and love. No chandeliers, no ivory pillars, just woven canopies dyed in deep indigo and coral, gold-lined chairs set between rows of fresh blooms, and a soft hum of talking drums carrying into the breeze. Guests arrived slowly, some curious, some humble. From senators to school teachers, fashion designers to market women, they came dressed not in tuxedos, but in hand-dyed fabrics that told stories, Ifedayo's stories. Then the music shifted. Phones tilted upward. Whispers rippled like wind across fabric. She stepped out. Ifedayo, barefaced, radiant, her gown flowing like a river of clouds. Her jail was soft gold, stitched by her own hands. In her palms, white lilies. In her smile, unshaken peace. Her mother wept. Her old students clapped. And from the very front row, Chief Mrs. Adebayo stood to her feet, eyes glistening with pride. Damilola waited by the altar beneath a carved arch of raffia and roses. He wore no designer label, just a clean, pressed agbada, dyed by Ifedayo's own hands. He looked at her like he had seen the stars, and they had blinked back. When she reached him, he took her hands and said, "You walked in my life with thread and fire and somehow stitched me back together." The officiant smiled, gesturing for vows. Damilola spoke first. "I lied about who I was, but not about what you made me feel. You gave me food when I had nothing, respect when I deserved none, and a love so true, I'd trade 10 empires to keep it." Ifedayo blinked back tears, her voice trembling. "You came to me broken, and I loved you without knowing your name. Now I know it, and still, I choose you, not because of what you have, but because of what you gave when you had nothing." Cheers echoed across the grounds. Even the most skeptical guests rose to their feet. The officiant smiled. "You may now kiss your bride." Their lips met gently as a pair of white doves burst into the sky above. And just like that, the man who had searched the streets for love and the woman who gave without asking became one. The empire he thought he'd lost, it began again with her.